film, gaming, pop culture. This is episode 3 of Everything is Permitted. Welcome back. I'm your host, Julian Brown, alongside my co-host, Matt Reppert. How you doing, man?
Yeah, not too bad. How are you doing?
Good, man. Another week, another frenzy of nerd and gaming and craziness.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm looking forward to talking about it.
Yeah, it's going to be good. If you're listening right now and I sound just a wee bit different, I have a little bit of a cold, but
you sound great.
We're gonna power through. Before we get to the permitted minute, we have a lot to talk about gaming-wise. Anything interesting this week besides our main topics? Anything that you found interesting?
I mean, honestly, I'm just looking forward to more stuff coming out. I mean, my wallet's kind of crying about it, and but I got some good deals on some movies today, which we'll
got
talk
some awesome
about in future
steelbooks,
which we'll talk about in probably in a couple future episodes. But yeah, that I'm really excited to kind of go back and watch some of those movies that I kind of grew up with. So
yeah, so you have that to be excited for, everybody. We're going to be doing in a few weeks. We'll be definitely doing a Halloween episode. Mm-hmm. I think that'll be a lot of fun. Maybe a countdown of some top horror films.
Yeah, we could do something like that. We can figure something out.
Maybe you could help us if you have an idea on what you'd like to hear in our Halloween episode. You can email us at permittedpod@gmail.com. You can message us on Facebook. You can tweet at us. We're on all the social media except Snapchat because Snapchat. Well, you know what I've been doing all week.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
And that'll be a big part of our show. I got Spider-Man for PS4, which is brilliant. But also, in our next show, and we'll talk about that when we wrap up at the end, but they released some cool pictures for Captain Marvel.
Yeah, they did.
And we're going to get a trailer on Tuesday.
Yes, I'm very much looking forward to that.
So that's, super exciting. So we'll talk about that at the end of the show, but for right now, we have so much gaming stuff. If you're sticking around to listen to the whole show, not just the permitted minute, that's what we hope at least, this is our big video game episode. Matt, September, October, it's always gaming frenzy.
Yeah, pretty much as soon as the school year starts, that's when the games start to drop.
Which kind of screws over the kids a little bit.
Yeah, that's kind of, I've always found that funny because even when I was growing up, the big video game releases happened in the fall, and I was always like, I'm at school. I can't, you release a good game in the summer, that's probably the only thing I'm playing all summer. You monopolized my time. Congratulations.
Yeah, but it seems like the good AAA titles, Game of the Year contenders, that's generally this time of year.
This time of year. They're trying to sneak in for the holidays, I guess. So.
Yep. And we're going to get to all that. But first, it's our weekly segment. And Matt, I interrupted you from saying it last time, so I'll go. It's the
Permitted Minute.
It's the Permitted Minute. So at my go, we're going to go in 3, 2, 1... Go.
Big 2 weeks for Henry Cavill. First, he gets cast as Geralt in Netflix's adaptation of The Witcher, then quits playing the Man of Steel. Priorities. Venom's disappointing PG-13 rating has been confirmed, and with it, the hopes and dreams of a real Venom movie. It clocks in at 1 hour and 53 minutes.
Sony's 6.0.0 update for the PS4 dropped last week, confusing gamers with improved performance? That's it? Also, Apple unveiled their new line of iPhones, and for the first time in my life, I say, who cares?
Finally, the year for the setting of Patrick Stewart's Picard-based Star Trek show has been revealed, taking place in 2399.
We did it again.
We did it
2
again.
weeks in a row.
2-1.
2-1.
2-1.
Maybe we have to add one more subject.
I think we do.
Next week's, this week I think was easier than last week.
Yeah, it was.
Yeah. That was the Permitted Minute, ladies and gentlemen, and we're going to get right into the show. This is something that I know, Matt, you have very strong opinions on. We mentioned it at the top of the Permitted Minute. Mm-hmm. Henry Cavill being cast as, I'm going to butcher this, Geralt in Netflix's adaptation of The Witcher, which will be dropping on Netflix. So the question is it the right move?
I mean, the thing is that my only experience with Henry Cavill as an actor has been him as Superman. Now, I know that some people liked him in the new Mission Impossible movie. I haven't seen it, so I can't attest to how good he was, how menacing he was. So right now, I'm kind of edging towards just because, that right amount of cool swagger, that smooth, because in any of the Witcher games, Geralt to me has always come off as like he can pretty much kill anybody, but he doesn't want to unless he's paid to do it. And, you know, he has this very quiet, like, badass about him. You know, it's very one of those hard things to do. And
kind of like this might be a horrible comparison, but going back to Netflix, like a Luke Cage, like quiet but deadly.
Honestly, I haven't watched the Luke Cage series, so I can't attest to that. But
well, I have never played The Witcher, so
yeah, I mean, it's, you know, I'm going to try and be optimistic. I will certainly give the show a chance. You know, I mean, I got to see him in action.
Right.
I need a trailer. I need pictures. I need something to kind of say, okay, I feel comfortable embracing this Geralt. I mean, it's, maybe Henry Cavill can pull it off. Maybe, you know, I'm hoping he can. I'm hoping Netflix didn't just make a terrible decision with, you know, honestly, one of my favorite, you know, video game franchises ever.
I have some time now, and especially with new baby coming, I'm going to be wanting to play some new games while I have some time at home. That is something I'm going to finally pick up so I can watch the Netflix series. I did see Mission Impossible, the newest one. Rogue, is it? No, Fallout. Fallout. It's actually, quick bit of trivia here. Fallout is the first direct sequel to a Mission Impossible movie.
Okay.
Cool little fact there. I thought he was very menacing. I thought he was a very fun bad guy, if not your kind of prototypical blockbuster baddie.
Yeah.
But it was good. Was it worth Stashgate? Maybe not. Maybe not. But one thing that we know about Henry Cavill is that he's a huge fan of the game. He's played it. There's three
There are 3 Witcher games.
He's played all of them. He's very outspoken about it. How much influence do you think that have? Will it make it better? Do you think it'll make it worse? Yeah.
I mean, it depends. I mean, I don't know how much control Cavill has over the creative process, because, I mean, if he put it in his contract and said that, I can say, like, hey, look, this needs to be closer to the character, because, and here's something that most people don't know, is that the Witcher games are based on the Witcher books, which were, written by a Polish author whose name I'm not going to try and pronounce because I'm just going to butcher it. They were. I read the first book, and it was decent fantasy schlock. I enjoyed it for what it was. Obviously the games are what made Witcher, the Witcher series what it is. And honestly, I'm just, as I said, I believe they can do something good with it, because the games are actually no way based on the books, because the games will reference things that happened in the books, but they are not based, for the most part, on any of the books. The games are their own story, so I'm hoping the Netflix series does something similar, where it's Geralt's adventures, and they can reference the games, which I actually think would be a clever little wink and a nod.
You almost feel like they might have to.
Yeah, I think they might have to, but at the same time, I mean, I don't think they need to, because, I mean, most people, like myself included, you don't need to give me a wink and a nod. I know the Witcher series going into this, and I mean, I think people who have never played the video games or read the books or anything like that, if you wink and nod, they might just be like, what the hell was that?
Right.
What are they talking about?
You mentioned the books, but apparently, I think it was from the 90s, there's also an old 90s Polish Witcher film.
There is. You can actually see clips of it on YouTube, and I think I watched like maybe a couple. I mean, it is what it is. It's an Eastern European production, so it's not going to have the high production values. Yeah. I mean, because obviously in Poland, The Witcher is a big deal.
Right.
Because actually, in fun fact, when I was in Afghanistan years ago, there was a Polish unit on their APCs, their armored personnel carriers. They actually had the Witcher medallion spray painted onto their vehicles.
Awesome.
Yeah, that's how so big a deal it is for them.
That's awesome. Video games, movies specifically, haven't been successful at all. Everybody thought that Assassin's Creed might be it. That ended up being awful. Yeah. I didn't see it, but I heard from everyone else that it was. Mm-hmm. Can a video game show maybe break the mold and be successful?
The thing with transforming a video game into a movie or a TV show is, and I think somebody years ago, some reviewers said, you're trying to take a medium that is interactive and make it into a non-interactive medium. And, it cuts both ways because, trying to make a video game out of a movie tends to not go very well most of the time either. So, I mean, I'm not saying it can't be done because, I mean, honestly, if I had told you that the biggest movie franchise in history was based around Marvel Comics and things like Guardians of the Galaxy, if I'd told you that 10, 15, well, maybe like 15, 20 years ago, would you have believed me? And
exactly. That's a very good point.
So just because it hasn't been done doesn't mean it can't be done.
So you mentioned this as we were talking about it, how this show is going to be adapted. Do you think it is going to be maybe a new story, or do you think it'll be a strict adaptation of the game? And I know his books as well.
I could see them going the route of the books a little bit, just because the books aren't as well known to the mainstream audiences. At the very least, they could mine, the books for inspiration. The video games, most certainly. I have a feeling that the look of the show will be heavily influenced by the games. I mean, Geralt's appearance, I would be very surprised if it is anything but Geralt from the video games just spray painted onto Henry Cavill.
Right.
Or, so... there has to be some kind of inspiration there. It's not required for them to, use the books or the games or anything like that. As long as they do a good story, right. That's the important thing here.
So let's move on right away from The Witcher, and I don't think Netflix has announced a drop date for that yet.
No, I don't think
I will get one. I'm guessing once they start some real pre-production on it.
Yeah.
We're going to go from making a movie from a video game to a video game expansion. This one is a sore subject for me, but Matt, maybe, as we've been talking before recording, might be convincing me otherwise. Destiny Forsaken, its big expansion, just dropped this week. This week? Last week.
Last week. Yes.
And apparently, at least from early looks, it's doing for Destiny what the Taken King did for Destiny 1. And, players were really fed up after the second expansion, Warmind. If it wasn't enough. It wasn't for me personally. Mm-hmm. Like, Warmind wasn't enough for me to stick around. And I know a lot of players left even before Warmind because they were fed up with it. These issues happened in D1 and they were happening in D2 mm-hmm. all over again. Warmind certainly helped fix some issues that D2 had, but it wasn't enough. Has Forsaken fixed D2 the same way that Taken King has fixed D1? You've been playing for about a week now.
Yeah, it's fixed quite a few issues, but it's also introduced some others, in there, because any expansion that tries to kind of change the core element of the game, because, obviously one of the big things that Destiny, that the Forsaken introduced, is the random rolls for weapon drops. No longer, if you get the scout rifle Endless Midnight, it's not the same across the board unless you get you happen to get the same roll with the drop. And I'm okay with that because Destiny 1 obviously had that. I know a lot of people were clamoring for that because, all the guns were kind of the same, and it wasn't a matter of, walking into a firefight with a better gun. It was just, okay, this guy is using this, so I'll just use this, and that negates it. But now some things that it did introduce that I'm not a fan of is the way that the Masterwork core system works now, as well as the materials it takes in order to raise your gear up. But honestly, to me, as I said, the resource thing is a minor issue because if you do some bounties and play around on the planets, you'll probably get all the resources you need and then some.
Right.
But my biggest gripe with the expansion is, as I mentioned a moment ago, the Masterwork core, because it used to be it would just take you 5 or 10 Masterwork cores to masterwork.
Yeah, it wasn't very much
armor. It wasn't bad. And my character had 100 something of the damn things in my inventory before Forsaken came out. Now it takes there's levels of masterwork, for example, and like, so if you have something that has 0 masterwork on it, it'll take some glimmer to get it to level 1, and then a little more glimmer for 2, and then it'll take legendary shards, and so on and so forth.
So it's like your typical progression system.
It progresses up, but eventually it starts requiring a lot of masterwork cores, and the only way you get them is, like, obviously you can break down something that has masterwork stuff in it, or you buy them from a new character called the Spider. And that method of buying from them is terrible, because the way it works is that when you first talk to him, you can buy 1 for like X amount of glimmer or legendary shards, whichever it was, and it doubled the price every time you buy from him. Now,
sounds about right.
Yeah. Now every day it's supposed to go down and reset. Now I don't know if it's intentionally set this way, but for me it didn't go back down to 1; it went down to 10. So it costs like 10 legendary shards, and then it was 20, and then it was 40, and then it was 80, and then it was 160. So basically, like, your legendary shards can literally just evaporate like that, and literally that's just to buy 1 of them.
People complained at the beginning of D2 that things were too cheap, that legendary shards, like, you just had tons of them, like they didn't mean anything anymore. But now it seems like they've broken them again.
Oh no, they most certainly have. And I mean, honestly, like, I'm very much one of those people who, at some point, if you're a video game developer, you have to ignore some of the bitching from the fan base and do what works with the game. Because people complain that this weapon is broken or that weapon is broken, and that's, if you need to fix that, that's fine, just for balancing issues. But I mean, honestly, I pretty much will put money down that whole masterwork legendary shard thing is going to get patched in the coming months, because people are going to run out of shards very quickly.
Yeah.
I mean, I had like 6,000 of them, and literally I burned about 1,500 just getting enough masterwork cores to level 1 single weapon up.
That's kind of ridiculous.
Yeah, and that's the insanity of it. And but as I said, there is a lot about it.
Let me just interrupt you there real quick, because I liked the beginning stages of Masterworks, but at the same time, there were definitely some cool features about them, but I didn't find them overall necessary yet. Are they absolutely necessary? Is it optional?
I would say it's optional to a point, but like the Masterwork cores, for example, when you kill enemies with your weapons, it drops super orbs that replenish people's supers and things like that. And and they also changed, another thing that they changed, which I like but I dislike at the same time, is how the modding system works with the armor. Because it used to be, you just click something into place and that ups your reload speed for a weapon. Well, now the mods are like, you do more damage, but you take more damage, for example, things like that. So they made it more diverse in terms of what the mods do, and they made the mods, more special for you to get your hands on a mod that you like for your armor and things like that. So, but as I said, Forsaken did a lot of good things. I enjoyed the storyline for what it was. Obviously Kate is dead, and all that, and the whole, you're hunting down Prince Uldred. I haven't tried the raid yet. It dropped today. Unfortunately, Loot Jesus has not been kind to me in the week leading up to this, because the minimum light level for the raid, they're saying, is like 540. You could probably slide by with 530 something. But the problem is that I'm not getting the drops to get my guy leveled up. Now, one thing that they did institute in the game, which I'm not going to lie, I love the hell out of, is now they have daily powerful loot drops.
You were mentioning that to me.
Yeah, so basically every day at the reset, you'll have like 2 or 3 quests, which obviously are daily quests. You complete them, you get a powerful engram, which is supposed to be higher than what you are currently equipped. So that's
is it still gathering at like it did at the beginning of the game? Is it gathering your overall light, like, based off of all the gear you have and averaging it based off that?
I think it still does that, yes. Although, however, I've seen it where I haven't had my most powerful thing equipped and it still gave me something a bit higher. But I'll admit, I kind of got really pissed off at the game, because about 2 days ago I did the daily stuff, and the 2 or 3 engrams I got were actually lower than what I had equipped, and so it in no way boosted my light level, because a friend of mine on Xbox messaged me today and said, "Oh, you're not trying the raid?" And I'm like, "Dude, I'm like 5'16", 5'18". Like, I'm gonna die the moment I step foot in it. I can't. I'm no
it'll
good.
It'll be like
to
a
you.
one-shot kill at that point.
Yeah. So
part of what the Forsaken expansion has also introduced is some new modes and some updates to how strikes and stuff work as well. There's the new Gambit mode that apparently people are loving. And I guess strikes have a better playlist now, and if I'm not mistaken, they're accessible via the map again.
yes, they are. They're accessible via the map. And as you said, Gambit, I was actually surprised at how much I have enjoyed it. It can get frustrating. Don't get me wrong, but there's something, I don't know. There's something very enjoyable about the mode because it's a combination of PvP and PvE. Teams of 4, you both are on your different sides of the map, so you don't see each other. You kill enemies, and they drop these motes, and basically you can choose to deposit them in your bank as soon as you pick them up, or you can hold them up until 15. Now, every multiple of 5, so 5, 10, and 15. If you hold the motes up to certain points and you deposit them in your bank when you have, let's say, 5, you put into the game what's called a small blocker, and it's a taken enemy and stuff like that. And what it does is when one of those comes into the game, their bank drops into the ground. They cannot deposit any motes. Now, if you die while holding a mote, you lose it permanently. It's gone. Now your team is trying to get to 75. So, and there are certain thresholds that when you hit, like when you deposit certain motes, a portal activates and one of your players jumps through the portal and can kill the enemy players on the other team. So obviously they can lose motes that way. It's a lot of fun. It's a welcome breath of fresh air in the game. I enjoyed it. Also, another thing that I actually love about the game is the new collection screen that they put in there, because now, it used to be you were never sure, like, do I have all the weapons? Do I have all the armor for this armor set or these weapons and stuff? It's all in the collection screen now. You can pretty much see. I mean, they keep the the wool over your eyes on some stuff because they're not giving away everything that's out there that you can get. But for example, you can look at the new Iron Banner armor, and that comes out next week. Iron Banner drops next week. So you can see what all the weapons look like, what the armor looks like. So now you can go like, I like how that looks. I'm playing this when it comes out. Stuff like that. And, as I said, there's a lot of positive things that Forsaken did. I'm not going to say it fixed Destiny 2 because Destiny 2 did have quite a few problems when it dropped. But much like Destiny 1, I think that they're getting better at it over time. And I know a lot of people bitched and complained about Destiny 2, but the thing is, though, and I've said this to people even in game that were bitching about it, is they couldn't just do Destiny 1.5 because then you're going to bitch they didn't change enough. So as I said,
part of what I would have liked to see, instead of them doing a full like D2 release, Destiny 2 release. Every time I say D2, I also think of D2 the Mighty Ducks. I would have been fine like with a World of Warcraft model where by the time D1 ended, it was a perfect game. It really was. I mean, before Destiny 2 came out, I was playing the crap out of D1. Like I was raiding, I think, like almost every night.
Yeah.
It was tons of fun. I would have loved for them to just make Destiny 2 a big expansion and just do expansion and expansion. But I know that Bungie went and rebuilt the entire system, so couldn't exactly do that.
Honestly, I would have been okay with that. And it's funny because I remember before Destiny 1 released, Bungie was like, oh, Destiny 1 is going to have like a 10-year life cycle.
Yeah.
And I remember I laughed my ass off, and I told you people then, I said, there is zero chance that this game lasts for 10 years. They are not going to be releasing new content 10 years from launch. Like, hell, you'll be lucky if the original console is even still being used that it launched on in 10 years. I mean, I always knew that Destiny 2 was something that was gonna happen, and honestly, I would not be surprised if Destiny 3 is in a couple years.
Oh, I mean, there's no doubt. I think Destiny 3 will be a PS5, Xbox. What do they call them?
Whatever. I don't know.
It has a
whatever
name.
It's called.
I think there's no doubt it's going to happen.
Yeah.
I would hope that with a Destiny 3 going, there's no way it drops with this console generation, that they do something like that. We're like, hey, we're releasing this game. Remember, Destiny 1 didn't drop immediately with PS4 and Xbox One. It released, I think, a year later.
Yes.
So it didn't have the opportunity to even have a full console life cycle. So at the beginning, they say, hey, this is Destiny 3, and we're going to support this for years to come.
Yeah.
Will they? Probably not.
No.
What I've also been hearing from people playing Forsaken is that there's like a lot to do. A lot than I think any other expansion. Is it a little bit of a situation where it's oversaturation, or is it a good thing that there's kind of like not a lot that you can't do right now?
My experience with the new activities is that, yes, there's a lot of activities. However, the thing is, though, is that they kind of did the same thing that they did in Destiny 1, is that these new activities are all cool, but the old activities don't give you any updated gear. So, for example, you're flying around Titan doing missions and stuff, then guess what? You get a 300 light level weapon drop. Well, guess what? You're 500 plus now, so that you might as well just chuck that crap in the trash.
I'm assuming that the new raid overshadows... why can't I remember the raid name?
Leviathan.
The Leviathan. I take it that
layers.
that's not dropping you much anymore.
I haven't tried Leviathan since Forsaken came out. I don't know what any of the stuff did. How any of the loot works in the older raid and the raid layers. Because it used to be before Forsaken came out, about a month or two, they released, they had the prestige raids out for both of the raid layers. The raid layers were the only ones that actually gave you the highest level stuff. The original Leviathan raid, even prestige, didn't. So it's like they still have all these activities for you to do on all the planets and such, but they're just there for you to do.
So flashpoints aren't doing anything at this point either, or are you still getting
powerful loot from flashpoints? You do get powerful loot from the flashpoints. It rotates, from planet every week and all that. That they have updated that, but I'm saying like the patrols and the public events on the planets, like unless you're doing it in the Tangled Shore area, which is one of the new areas, or the Dreaming City, which is the other one, you're not gonna get like anything remotely close to what you need. Yeah.
We were going to talk about the raid, but you haven't done it yet. I just want to say I was hooked because I think I'm going to unfortunately give in to my inner devil and finally re-download the game. I was watching a bit of the raid, and it was very King's Fall reminiscent of the most I watched, and it looked fun. Well,
because, so what they did in the Forsaken story was it's very much Taken, so that's where Taken came from, was King's Fall. So, I mean, and the thing that I've always kind of like scratched my head at with Destiny is that I've always felt like the raids are disconnected in some ways from
100%.
From the storyline, because you do the storyline and then the raid is just like, oh, here's fight Oryx now he's giant, and I'm just like, wait, how the hell did that happen?
That's where I disagree with you a little bit, because I actually thought that that King's Fall was the most connected raid.
Well, yes, it was by comparing it to the other raids,
right?
Like like for example, which one of my favorite things I used to joke about in Destiny 1 was doing the raid when you were killing Axis.
Wrath of the Machine. It's my favorite raid.
Yeah, and it was a decent raid, but the funny thing is that, and I even said this during the fight numerous times, is who the hell is Axis?
Right.
Where did this dude come from? It's just like, oh yeah, go into the basement and kill this dude down there.
That was a fun boss fight, because you really had to work as a team. If you went in there just expecting to like not contribute.
And honestly, that's one of the things that I'm not a fan of with Destiny 2 raids, is that in Destiny 1, like, there was some room for error. Like, somebody could die, somebody could occasionally screw up, and yeah, sometimes it would cause you to wipe, but sometimes you could power through it. Like, there were some of the most epic moments is where somebody would die, and like in King's Fall, for example, where somebody would die in the Shadow Zone.
Yeah,
they'd get slammed by Oryx, and they're dead now. We got to finish the rest of this.
It's not a huge deal.
You can power through it. Destiny 2, the slightest screw up.
Oh yeah! Once you're in the throne room in Leviathan, it's if you wipe, if you lose, You could 5-man it, but like it's pretty hard.
You need a good group
for Callus.
You need a good group,
and especially the first raid there. I never did the lighthouse one, but the second one was great. But if you lost someone there, because you need to be grabbing the orbs and everything, and get the lines correct on the big Vex thing, it just there's not a lot of room for error.
Yeah, there was no room for error, and it was like the slightest screw up, it dooms you all, and that's. I kind of miss that epic, like, all right, so-and-so is down, we can do this because everybody knows what they're doing, which I kind of, it's kind of funny because I saw a video where literally 2 guys did Leviathan Prestige.
By themselves?
By themselves. They did Callus by themselves.
That's incredible.
Yeah,
were they using Cold Heart?
The
rocket launcher.
They were basically, from what I remember, they were doing it because in Prestige Leviathan and the Callus fight, you get rotated in and out of the Shadow Realm, and so they were doing it so they would shoot the projections on either side, and then the guy on the outside would whack the Scion, and it would and they would switch. So instead of getting sucked in and getting killed, they would swap positions.
Oh, that's pretty awesome.
It was actually incredible.
I'll have to watch that video.
Yeah, it's a good video.
I liked Leviathan as a raid a lot. That's a bit unforsaken. Just talking to you makes me want to get it. I have to reveal a little time. I had a moment of weakness, and I actually hit the download button on it. I was like, "You can't do that," and I stopped it. But I think my dark side is going to give it and redo it. Talking about dark sides, we were talking about it while you were over playing Spider-Man earlier. Shadow of the Tomb Raider, you just got it today.
Yep, just came out today. Actually,
just came out today. Pretty dark story. I don't want to give away too much, but from what you told me already, it's like pretty deep.
Yeah, it's not going. I'm not going to spoil too much of the story, but I mean, basically, like literally in your first in town, like Laura inadvertently, at least as of right now, causes things to go very badly, which is, and it's kind of funny because the supposed big bad organization, Trinity, which was revealed in the second game, the boss that you meet very early on, they almost seem like the more reasonable ones in this whole thing. Because the encounter with Lara and this doctor, I actually walked away from it going, they seem like they're the more reasonable between the two parties here. Like Lara just found an ancient artifact and said, "Oh yeah," and just grabbed it. And basically inadvertently kills hundreds of
typical Lara Croft.
Yeah. So, and honestly, the Tomb Raider series, the rebooted Tomb Raider series, has, for me, quietly become one of my favorite franchises. It was, the first one. I loved the first one. The whole Yamatai setting, the storyline. And all that.
It's one of the only video games, that and GTA 5, it's one of the only video games that I've bought twice. I bought the GTA 5 remaster for PS4 and the Tomb Raider remaster for PS4. Seeing that game in 60 frames per second was freaking cool.
Yeah, the Tomb Raider games, they've all been gorgeous games. Graphically, I've never been able to say a bad thing about them. Shadow of the Tomb Raider, from what I've played of it, I enjoy it. It hasn't surpassed the first one, which to me is still the benchmark of the series. One of my biggest gripes with the game so far is that as of right now, there hasn't been a whole lot of stalking enemies, killing them, with your bow and with your this and that. Like there are parts of it, but it's more of like, oh, here you're in this area, go run around. Go find, crypts and tombs and stuff like that, which is fine. I'm cool with that. But there's no real enemies for the most part in a lot of these areas,
it's really just like a lot of exploration right now?
As of right now, yes. There's animals to hunt and stuff like that. But, honestly, one of my favorite things to do in the Tomb Raider games was basically to act like, some British ninja badass where she's like, I'm kind of sliding Laura around the map and just silently taking these dudes out left and right.
I think you and I have that in common. We really both, in games like that, you were doing it a lot in PS4 today, and that's how Spider-Man PS4, that's what I did while I played through the game. Stealth kills are very satisfying in any of these types of games.
Yeah, I mean, generally, if a game gives me the option for stealth versus, I can kick in the door, going guns blazing, I like going stealth because to me, going stealth in pretty much any game requires more skill, more patience, more craftiness, all that fun stuff. Like, I for example, another game series that I very much enjoyed is the Dishonored series, and
Yeah, we disagree on that one.
I mean, I like Dishonored, but the thing is, though, I actually played through all of Dishonored, and I did it on the second one, and never killed a single person.
Wow, you did?
I did.
Wow.
I used my powers and just...
That's not easy.
And I got through the map. I got through every single map and never killed a single person, and that, to me, was like the ultimate test of skill. Like, can I get through these levels and not kill a single person?
It's the best. It really is. Mm-hmm. I... like you did, loved the first Tomb Raider reboot. I thought it was extremely well done. It made it very much more real world than the past Lara Croft games. Unfortunately, PS4 users kind of got the shaft with Rise of the Tomb Raider. It didn't come out, I think, for like a year and a half.
Yeah, they waited a year.
And then by that time, a bunch of other good PS4 games had come out, so I was playing those. So I only recently, because they had a good sale on it, got Rise, and I'm about an hour into it. And it's, from what I've gotten so far, I haven't played a lot. I've enjoyed it, but like you're kind of saying about this one so far, I'm not completely like in love with it yet. But from what I'm hearing, this new one, Shadow, and maybe it is the end of the trilogy. At least maybe that's how they're marking it. Maybe not. It fits very well into this trilogy of games. Does it? I mean, you've played both all the way through. Does this one feel better than the second so far?
It feels like, I mean, as of right now, it seems like they're trying to kind of what they did with the story and second with the whole Trinity organization. They're trying to fit that into the Tomb Raider world that they've created. I don't know how well it's going to work because I haven't beaten the game yet. I'll probably beat it within a week or so, depending on how much I get to play it. But at the end of the day, I feel that it's a decent story. I like, there was actually a nice moment where there's a mission you play where you flash back to Lara's past and you play her as a little girl running around Croft Manor when her father's still alive and she's acting like she's going through, tombs and going on adventures and stuff like that. And it was a nice little story moment for Lara, which, in my opinion, kind of like set the whole idea. Because that was one of the things that I always kind of like scratched my head at in the first game was like, how is Lara this like acrobatic, like
such a badass,
yeah. And like and that little story mission kind of showed her backstory where she essentially had this giant, almost jungle gym that in her father's manor on the grounds that she messed around with for her entire life. And stuff like that, I felt build the Lara character up in an interesting way. And, I'm hoping that if this is the last Tomb Raider game of this new series, which there was a little message from the developers where basically they said, oh, thanks for being with us through this journey and stuff like that.
Ominous, yeah.
Yeah, it kind of to me smacked of like, this is our last hurrah, and we hope you like it. As I said, I have enjoyed the Tomb Raider series to this point, and actually they're in a fun little wink and nod back to the original Tomb Raiders. Some of the skins you can get are literally the blocky Lara that you can run around in game, and I'm not gonna lie, I'm very tempted to do that and see if in cutscenes that's what she looks like.
I want to give a quick shout out to our old The Soccer Desk podcast producer Stephanie Morgan, who's playing through this game right now, and posted a screenshot on her Facebook of playing as like the 32 pixel bit Lara Croft, and she's like, I should probably be playing with like the animated emoted Lara, but this is just so much fun. So you rock on with 32-bit Lara there, Stephanie. And right before we get to Spider-Man PS4, I wanted to mention, as you were telling me about that earlier today, the back mission when Lara is a little girl in Croft Manor. That automatically made me think of in Uncharted 3, when the game starts off as young Nathan, and it's how he meets Sully, and that how Nathan, just like you're talking about Lara, has always like had a knack for being interested in history and these artifacts and quote-unquote tomb raiding. And obviously Uncharted is a huge, much inspired by Tomb Raider.
I would be foolish to say like, oh, Tomb Raider is its own thing and in no way takes from Uncharted, because it does.
No, other way around. I would say Uncharted takes from Tomb Raider.
I'm talking the new Tomb Raider.
Oh no, good point.
The new Tomb Raider, because and the funny thing is, I own Uncharted 1 through 4. Haven't really got around to playing them.
Oh wow!
I know. I started playing 1 and I didn't love it like a lot of people did.
You just gotta like.
I know.
That's
what a friend of mine told me, is that if you power through 1, the series gets infinitely better.
2 is still the best one. 2 is amazing.
And from what little I played of the first one, it was plainly obvious to me that when they remade Tomb Raider, they looked at Uncharted and said, "That's the game we're going to take from. We're going to take from Uncharted." And we're gonna build the new Lara Croft around Nathan Drake and all these adventures to these far-flung places and all that. All right, so Julian already mentioned it. Spider-Man, a PS4 exclusive, unfortunately. Yay. Yeah, son of a bitch. So I know you have been playing the crap out of it, because I came over today to play it before we started recording this, and you have 100%ed it. I'm pretty sure you've gotten every trophy almost.
Platinum.
Yep, you've gotten everything. So I'll start with the first question is, how do you think this game compares to the earlier Spider-Man games that many said were the best in the entire series?
I mean, that old Spider-Man 2 game,
oh yeah, that's a classic.
I think that's the bar, you know. That was for PS2.
Yeah, I think it was.
Yeah, it was for PS2. I mean, it did. It set the bar. And what I want to say about that real quick, because so many people say, I have to bring up another game right now, is Star Wars Battlefront. Well, it's like, well, oh man, like Battlefront 2 is still like so superior, but like, if you go back and fire up that game, is it? Is it? No.
I would say gameplay-wise, it is, to be honest with you.
Maybe gameplay-wise, but like graphically, like
obviously
I
not.
can't I just can't rely on
like
I'm big into graphics, so like I can't rely on that. But like everyone will say it, and I'll be the first to say it. Spider-Man 2, the web swinging was revolutionary.
Yeah.
It felt great especially for a PS2 game.
Yeah.
And really set the bar for future Spider-Man installments, and future Spider-Man installments failed miserably.
Yeah.
There was one good game, I think it was based off the Andrew Garfield Spider-Man.
Amazing Spider-Man
on PS3.
Yes.
And it wasn't horrible.
Yeah.
I actually enjoyed it, and web swinging again felt very good. New York felt pretty alive, but this game just blows all of that out of the water. Like, when you think of Spider-Man and comic books and the Avengers, like, he's the most fun superhero.
Yeah, he's the quirky. He makes the wise cracks and all that during the fights. And
I mean, like, when you think of Spider-Man is fun, and that's what this game is. It's just pure, unadulterated fun. And you didn't get that from Spider-Man 2 because that was Tobey Maguire, and you didn't get that from emo Andrew Garfield.
Yeah.
This is just like almost out of a comic book. Having said that, one of the most amazing things about this game is the way that it emotionally grabs you, too. I'm saying it right now. Spider-Man PS4 has a better story and a more emotionally gripping than Tobey Maguire's Spider-Man 2.
Oh, wow. Okay.
It has some amazing, amazing moments. So how does it compare? It blows Spider-Man 2 out of the water. And that's saying something, because people still talk about not only the movie, but the game.
So, obviously, this new Spider-Man game has gotten pretty much spectacular reviews across the board. I'm assuming it's done very well sales-wise. I'd be surprised if it hasn't been a big hit.
It surpassed something over in Europe. I forget what it was, but yeah.
So, having said that, do you feel that this Spider-Man game sets a good foundation for what could be a new video game franchise?
I think there's no doubt. I think the game sets those things up already. And I think Insomniac has very much said that this game is going to be supported with a lot of DLC, and I think free DLC.
Okay.
Which is exciting.
Yeah.
But absolutely. I think you're going to get it. This is going to be a trilogy. This isn't a spoiler. It's in the commercials and everything. Mary Jane is a playable character, and so is Miles Morales. Miles Morales is a very big part of this game. you don't need to be a rocket scientist if you're a fan of Spider-Man to figure out what gets set up in this game. I don't want to give it away because the moments that Peter / Spidey share with Miles throughout this game really is just something to behold for yourself. So I want to leave that at that. But there's no doubt that this is going to be a new franchise of games.
Okay. So, without going into too many spoilers, what do you hope they do with the series going forward? Because obviously Spider-Man is a New York City-based superhero, so they can't widen the world and say, all right, now it's New York City and the surrounding countryside like they do with like GTA or something like that. So what do you want to see from this game series going forward if they do a second one?
I mean, yeah, you said it's New York City based, and unfortunately, it's strictly Manhattan based. Having said that, it's a big Manhattan. I mean, you were swinging through it.
Yeah, absolutely.
I would like to see it go into the boroughs. The bridges are there, and you could tell that there's some cities that are more detailed than others.
Yeah.
So I'm wondering if that's going to be some DLC. They said the next DLC is definitely going to be Manhattan.
Okay.
I would like to see Miles. It's hard with spoilers, but I want to see a Miles Morales based game, and maybe even DLC. That's what I want to get to.
Yeah, so honestly, I started playing Spider-Man today. It's a game I'm going to get eventually, but between Forsaken and Tomb Raider and all that, I just didn't have the time that I wanted to dedicate to it, because it's going to be one of those games I'm probably going to do everything in it like you did. Me personally, from what I played it for a few hours, obviously, and I'm hoping that in the future for the next Spider-Man game, because I can't see them doing this as a DLC, is that they do something like Spider-Man 2099, the future Spider-Man. Imagine a futuristic New York City with a futuristic Spider-Man suit.
The suits are there.
The suits are in the game, yeah, absolutely. But just imagine what they could do, the fun they could have with a future where you could just basically play with the world and do what you want with it. And that, to me, that would be a game I would buy day one. Doesn't matter what's out there. And don't get me wrong, I very much enjoyed this game, and I definitely would put it in my running for Game of the Year from what little I've played of it.
100%.
It was designed very well. The graphics are gorgeous. The gameplay is fun. And the game is so well designed, and there's no BS microtransactions like, oh, do you want to unlock all Spidey's abilities now? Well, just pay us $20 and you can do it. No, it's fun to play the goddamn game and level up and get those abilities.
The way that you unlock everything is easy yet challenging, and it's all based via tokens. You don't have to do anything with real money to get them.
Yeah.
You play the game, that's how you unlock it.
Yeah.
That's how it should be. And we're going to get into that in our main story here in just a second. Two things I want to quickly mention about Spider-Man PS4. You and I are both big into the collection aspects of the game. Someone mentioned this on Twitter. The game is super easy to platinum.
Yeah.
They made it for collectors. There's no you need to do this online. There's no online features, so you don't need to do that. There's no things where it's based on complete this DLC. You have the base game, you can platinum it.
Yeah.
It's really nice that way. Have fun with the photo mode. That's the last thing I'll say about the game. The photo mode is its own little addiction. Check out the game. It's amazing.
Yeah, it's definitely worth a buy.
Into our main story tonight. Fortnite raked in almost $320 million in the month of May alone. Numbers like that, it seems like the free-to-play model. If you didn't know, Fortnite is an online MMO type game.
A free-to-play game.
Free-to-play game. You got upgrades and guns and weapons through using real-world money. With numbers like that, is the free-to-play model here to stay? Is that a good thing? Is it a bad thing? Is it good for the gaming industry and gamers, or is it not good at all? Where are things at with the free-to-play model?
All right, so for me personally, I hate Fortnite. I don't like PUBG. I don't like the Battle Royale games. Now, if that was just a gameplay difference, I'd be fine with that. However, Fortnite and these games like it basically because with Fortnite's success, it inspires a lot of copycats. It inspires a lot of games that have no business acting like Fortnite are now trying to act like that. For example, the new Call of Duty, for example, has a battle royale mode, no more single player, and
which is a travesty.
Oh yeah, it absolutely is. And my personal feeling is it is terrible for gamers, because rather than you pay the fee up front for the game, you buy the game, you play the game, you get whatever out of the game, you either you sell it, or just put it on your shelf like I do, just as a collection thing. But games like Fortnite, they want to keep prying open your wallet day after day, week after week, month after month. And that's the reason why Fortnite makes as much money as it does, because it puts out, new skins for these weapons, new skins for your characters, new this and new that. And for some people, that's fine. But me personally, I am not a fan of constantly paying to play the game. And I understand, it's free to download it. It's basically a mobile game that's now AAA and is on my console. And I know a lot of kids who play it, and the funny thing is how many of them seem to assume that Fortnite is going to be around forever. And it's not.
No, all that money you spent is going to end up being for nothing, because Fortnite 2 is going to come out in a year, and nothing's going to be able to move over, and people need to know that.
Oh yeah, absolutely. I mean, if you're listening to this and you think that the makers of Fortnite are going to let you carry over even half the crap that you've bought or whatever, you're sorely mistaken. Because, I speak from bitter, painful experience on this. As we mentioned earlier, Destiny 1 to Destiny 2. I collected everything in Destiny 1. Guess how much of it carried over to Destiny 2? Zero. And the thing is, Fortnite, I've heard, has already kind of plateaued. I've heard some people say, is that, it still makes a crap ton of money, but it's
not going anywhere.
No, it's not going anywhere, because, people eventually realize that, a game where I spawn in and oops, I just got sniped by a guy a mile away that I couldn't see, and now I'm back to the main menu and have to restart and go into another match. That's not enjoyable. I've said in a previous podcast that I will never belittle you for liking something. And if you like Fortnite, then by all means, whatever makes you happy. But, you are absolutely fooling yourself if you think that Fortnite's model is something that's sustainable for the average gamer, because, at some point you're going to be picking and choosing what you're going to be playing and paying for, because, suppose that you have 5 Fortnite-like games that are, and let's say they're all well-designed, fun to play, they're all free to download, but you have to spend money to get new skins, to get new this and new that. You're at some point, maybe when you're an adult and money is tighter because you have more bills to pay, you're going to start picking and choosing what you play and what you pay for. I don't have the time, and I certainly do not have the money to invest in Fortnite, or PUBG or any of those games. And if you do, then I'm happy for you. But that is not a game for me.
Like you, I've never touched Fortnite. I have no desire to touch Fortnite. It doesn't interest me at all. I have a little bit of a different take on free-to-play than you do. I think that it has its place. I think that it is what it is. It advertises hey, you can download this for free, but if you want this, this, and this, you have to pay for it. That's fine. But my biggest problem is with games that you pay a premium for. So you're going to GameStop and, oh man, Star Wars Battlefront 2 just came out. $60, maybe $70, $80 if you get the I think it was the black edition with
yeah, I know what you're talking about.
So you've already spent your $70, whether it's digital or for the disc, and then all of a sudden, loot crates, where you're basically paying to play, and if you spend all the real world money in the world, you have a significant advantage over players. That's where my problem comes in, is pay to play instead of free to play. We know that EA is a big culprit here with loot boxes. They were showing up in Battlefield 1, and then with Battlefront 2, it became almost a giant legal mess.
Battlefront 2 was ruined by the loot boxes. It was totally ruined. I played Battlefront 1 and I was like, this is okay. It's not great. It's not terrible. And then, I saw the stuff Battlefront 2, like, okay, ship battles and all that, all this starfighter stuff. Cool. And then, they mentioned loot boxes before the game came out, and I was like, okay, I'm not a fan of this, but whatever. And then I played the goddamn game, and I have never seen a game as broken by loot boxes as Star Wars Battlefront 2, because you would get powers and abilities from the loot boxes. So, and some of them gave you a huge advantage over people like me who were not dropping more cash on the game. Because I remember I would be playing some maps and I'd be going up against somebody, and I'd get the drop on them. I'd get the first couple shots on them, and they would just turn around and pow, one shot, and I'd go down. And when they killed you, you could see what little buffs they had, and they had increased blaster damage or crap like that. And I was just like, I can't beat these people. It's no longer a game of skill. And that's what gets me, is you've taken the skill out of it. Because I've played games over the years where I've been beaten by people who were less skilled than me because they got an advantage of some kind. Maybe they were playing a little better that day, and I'm okay with that. I'm not okay with, some kid or some adult or whomever dropped $50 and bought as many loot crates as they possibly could. Now, the funny thing about the whole loot crate controversy, and I've heard about this, is that in, I don't know if it's in Belgium or the Netherlands, they ruled that
it's gambling.
That it's gambling, and they basically are saying you're going to remove that from the games. EA apparently has said no.
They have said no, and they're now going to court.
The new FIFA game, which drops later this month, they've said we are not removing. And that's the funny thing, is that they're essentially arguing that it's a core part of the gameplay,
which is complete BS.
Oh, it's just like for FIFA, it's just Ultimate Team, which you could pull Ultimate Team.
Never touched a minute.
I did for a time.
Yeah,
I did for a time, and that's where part of my bitter experience about shit carrying over comes from. Is that a couple of years ago, I was huge into Ultimate Team. I was very good at it. I had a very dominant team, and then the next FIFA came out, and poof, all that time, and
it's gone.
It's all gone. I couldn't carry it over.
What pisses me off a lot is that Battlefront 2 was supposed to be it, people were. I personally wasn't disappointed about it by Battlefront 1. I got a lot out of that game. I really enjoyed it, but still, Battlefront 2 was supposed to be we got it right this time.
Yeah, we're sorry.
You got John Boyega advertised in the game, hey, this is it. If you don't know who that is, that's Finn from the new Star Wars trilogy. This is it, guys. This is going to be amazing. Great story. Great, good weapons. These amazing dogfights. No, the game, for all intents and purposes, the game is dead. They're trying to, breathe some life into the Clone Wars DLC.
They apparently removed the loot boxes, but the funny thing is that, I've read articles and I've seen, people on YouTube say that they essentially have to redesign the game from the ground up because the loot boxes were so integral to the game, which, to me says that the game was crap to begin with. If your game cannot function without loot boxes, then how good was it to begin with?
Do you think that with EA getting this legal backlash that loot boxes may be dead, that, our publishers and are they scared of the public and legal backlash that they've already gotten and what they could get in the future?
I feel that what happened in Europe is it depends upon what happens in the court case, because EA, I'm sure, is going to bring all of their guns to bear. All of their money is coming to this fight, and I could see what eventually ends up happening is that it depends on how that court case goes, because if EA loses, I could see it starting a chain reaction, because now if one country says it's gambling and, maybe they're going to start putting certain laws on it and say, look, you want to have this in your game, you're going to pay a fee towards the government and all that. And then other governments can go, wait, that might be a nice little revenue stream for us. And then they start doing it. And then EA basically says, you know what, we're not doing this crap, and pulls it entirely from their games. But on the off chance EA wins, then honestly, we're in the dark times at that point.
Yeah.
Because at that point, it just becomes a matter of at what point does the crash happen? Because, they're this constant prying of money from your wallet for just to play the game.
End of story, unless you're getting some amazing content DLC, like what they did with AC Origins. Like that DLC, both of them was worth every single penny.
Oh yeah, it was.
Like that's good. Like, but you should never ever have to, once you spent a base $60, have to pay for upgrades or pay for any kind of advantages. And that leads me to our final question here. You say that the free-to-play model doesn't really have a place. I say it has its place because it advertises very openly what it is. I guess to end, like, what is okay for a game to be pay-to-play? And I guess what type of games should have the free-to-play model, if not games like Fortnite and PUBG?
I mean, like, the thing is that at the heart of the matter, I guess I'm okay with Fortnite and them being free to play and all that. The problem is that when they become wildly successful, then games that have no business having that type of model in it start to emulate it, start to copy it. And, and that's the thing, is that, like, maybe I'm the old man sitting on my porch saying, get off my damn lawn, you kids, but with the success of Battle Royale modes, now all these other games, like the new Battlefield, the new Call of Duty, they have to have Battle Royale mode, even though
does Battlefield 5 have
yes,
Battle Royale
supposedly, from what I've read, it does.
I hear that the beta has been excellent.
I played the beta, and it was decent. I mean, obviously, it's a beta, so I didn't, like, jump into it.
I love
too
Battlefield
deeply.
1.
Oh, no, I love Battlefield. I've always loved the Battlefield series, pretty much. I played Battlefield 1942 on PC back in the day.
Oh, yeah,
that was the original. That was the first. But no, I'm okay with games, as you said, advertising it from the get-go and saying, look, we're free to download, but, you want to do... And apparently one game that supposedly has done the free-to-play model very well is Warframe, which I played a little bit of back in the day. It didn't grab me, but it's not it doesn't offend me the way Fortnite and those other games do.
Paul Etheridge.
Yeah.
Paul basically quit Destiny for Warframe. He's, like, religiously playing. He loves Warframe.
Yeah, and that's okay.
Yeah.
And that's okay. As I said, it's just the thing that just bothers me is when those things are so successful that now they're intruding upon what shouldn't have it. So
have you heard this craziness? We're out of time here, but I think this is ridiculous that they're opening up schools to take lessons on how to be good at Fortnite. And, like, parents are sending them to these school, like, their kids to these, like, lessons.
I'm going to say this as plainly as I can. If you have children and you have the time, money, whatever, to send them to a frickin' school to play Fortnite, I'm going to say you're an idiot. Because Fortnite, no video game is eternal. No video game...
Except maybe Overwatch.
Even Overwatch, I think, because I remember when Overwatch was the game to play and everybody loved it, and I said, no, it'll drop off like every other game, and people still play it.
But I mean, like,
not nearly what they were.
You can't deny the huge influence that the Overwatch League's having right now.
Oh no, absolutely, but they're only going to have influence until the next game comes along that bumps them off. What was played before Overwatch?
True. Well, we'll see. I think you said it pretty well to end. Idiots. idiots all. That's our show. What are your thoughts on free-to-play? What are your thoughts on pay-to-play? We want to hear from you. Email us at permittedpod@gmail.com. Facebook message us, tweet at us. We want to know. And if we like what you say, even if we don't like it, we may mention it on in our next episode, episode 4. Speaking of episode 4, we're going to be digging deep into the Marvel Cinematic Universe.
Oh, boy.
By the time you listen to our next episode, the Captain Marvel trailer will have dropped. Something to look forward to this week if you're listening now on Tuesday. We're going to be doing a trailer breakdown with our Captain Marvel expert, Karen Brown. And we will also have her on to talk about, where the MCU goes from here. All that and more on episode 4. We hope you like this one. Have a good night.
Fire rocket to the moon, fire plane to